Toffel!
Damon.
Today I'm replacing Carl in letting me show expensive cards because Carl just made too much money off the cards that Toffel suggested.
True story, yeah.
But before we get into the cards themselves, you should please subscribe. You know, Carl isn't here, but he's still holding basically a gun to my head to ask you to subscribe. So please do that. And with that out of the way, have you subscribed? You have. All right, let's get into the cards.
All right, segment, 5 cards that are worth a lot or something.
Surprising
amount of money.
All right.
Back then in Magic, we had a Magic.
We had tokens.
Yes, we had a Magic. That's not one token; it's a special token. We had Magic Player Rewards Program, which means, that was before Planeswalker points. You could sign up, and then for every match and game you played, at the end of the month or 3 months, you got valuable tokens and full art cards, if you remember, full art ponders and remands. Back then, you got a lot of those. Every 3 months, they came into the mail. But that was a long time ago. But this worm token, right? This one is worth 12 euros as of now. 12 euros.
Who goes online and is like, I really need this worm token. Let me pay 12 euros.
It's old school. It's kind of fun. And as I said, people weren't too careful with the cards back then. And eventually now, 20 years later, 15 years later, people have not met that many of them left.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and this kind of works for all the Magic Player Rewards cards, the full art, ponders. All those cards are quite expensive.
So if you, I have never experienced this, but if you're older than me and have played Magic for a while, there's a chance that you have just a bunch of these lying around.
Or if you find some friends who played for a longer time, if you get to a collection on a flea market, I don't know. If you're still in the mindset from back then that those cards were just laying around and you have them somewhere, if you find 20 of those, ding!
That's wild.
Pretty good. This is one thing, if once you know it, it's great to look at it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right.
Number 4, we have Utopia Sprawl.
I remember it being 2 euros, 3 euros.
Yeah, so a long time Utopia Sprawl was of a fun card more because you had a Llanowar Elf. People played a lot more Llanowar Elf than Utopia Sprawl, but it wasn't too looked after. But nowadays, actually with Commander, with Pioneer, even Modern, the Devotion, all of this, Utopia Sprawl was played a lot more, and it's now around 6 euros.
6?
For a common, from those Commander sets, from...
Dissension, it was in Dissension.
Yeah,
the first printing was in Dissension.
And it has one more uncommon printing in Masters 25, I think, and that's it. And this is also one of the cards, you never really give it away because the next green deck might need it as well, you know?
You'll just play Utopia Sprawl.
Yeah, we've seen Andrea play that in Modern, in his Elemental stack, Pioneer, Devotion, and all of those things. It's just very powerful. So
6 euros is wild for a common, dude. Imagine if you opened boosters back then and just...
Imagine open boosting now and somebody tells you it's pick up those commons, it will be eventually 6 euros. And it's no, that's not gonna happen.
Oh my goodness.
There is a little bit to this because, as we talked about last time, reprintability, this is quite easy to reprint.
It's not bound to a plane or something?
It's more about the flavor, it's you have some flowers that make mana. So this is very easy to reprint in any given new Master set, Commander set. If they decide, okay, we just want to put it in, put it in there. So if you're under question, if you have too many of those at home and you find them, just maybe sell some of those.
How much expected value that must contribute to Dissension boosters, because it's a common.
Yeah. Not kidding. All right, number 3. This is has been coming for a long time. It's Bloodline Keeper, and this kind of actually started with all the Commander decks going into very stable vampire direction. I know if you know Edgar.
That one is 60 euros or something.
Oh no. We'll do that for next time. But so what do you guess? Bloodline Keeper?
I'll say 7.
Yeah, that is about what I thought when I looked at the card the last time. But it's actually 14. So
14?
Yeah, if you and I think they had a foil printing, but also this is kind of not printed that much except for Commander. Hard to reprint. Bloodline Keeper, very Innistrad vampire flavored, so you kind of need this thing. But also if something reads vampire, this is your go-to, right?
Yeah, of course.
Backside is mono value.
So is that the same for other tribals? Should people just go around, pick up all those tribal cards and sit on them for 5 years?
If your tribal cards are needed in a Commander deck of the tribal being played, then it's pretty good to have those around. Yeah, like all the weird, like there's cats now, cats and dogs, so all of those lords are gonna climb up the more people will play it.
Yeah, and people don't part ways with their cat's commander deck, right? Like, why would you sell your cats?
Like in real life, you just grow accustomed to it. Yeah, no, that's true. It's always good to have a look at those. And if you plan to build some of those commander decks, you're gonna pick them up eventually. All right,
let's move on.
Number 2, we have Razaketh.
Oh, I remember that one. That one was really bad in draft.
It was, it wasn't too good. It was not too good. But actually, I remember like vividly that it was worth like 50 cents.
Yeah,
because you picked it up, nobody wanted to play it. I mean,
what's its ability? Pay 2 life, sacrifice another creature, search your library for any card. Okay, I mean, I can see the appeal. It's a free sack outlet, and it tutors at the same time. Who cares about the 8/8 flying trample?
So what do you think it's worth?
I'll let myself be influenced by the trend of 8s on this card. 8 mana, 8 power, 8 toughness. I'll say €8.
Almost, yeah. It's 60 euros. 60 euros. Okay, and here's one of maybe a little bit of like side information for you. So the way this works, and it's this is basically with every set since the history of the time, but it pretty much only applies when things are in print. Whenever a display costs less than the whole set value combined, then people like commercial sellers and big stores buy displays because the worth.
I mean, of course, if the expected value is higher than what you're paying for the box, like why wouldn't I just?
Yeah, and they do that in big scaling, right? If they realize, okay, cards are selling much more, then they actually worth than the display, they just buy the display. That's also why pre-ordering is pretty good for the sellers, because like usually all the pre-order prices. But that means that the price of an average thing has to be around the set, right? So if one card is more expensive, other cards get less expensive.
Oh, and I remember back in Hour of Devastation, there were these inventions kind of things, right?
First that took a lot of the price away. But there was also Scarab God. If you remember back then, Scarab God was like 50, 70 euros or something.
Yeah, that one was crazy.
So there was actually no room for those cards to have prices, because if this also would have been expensive on other cards, they would have had to put down some of the other cards.
I mean, it wouldn't immediately put the other cards down, but sellers would crack boxes until the cards are all worth less, right?
One of the examples nowadays, for example, if you have Unlicensed Hearts and Ledger Shredder, if they go up, other cards need to go down.
Because
otherwise it doesn't make sense. So that's why this card wasn't worth anything, because other cards were worth anything. So you have them in like your boxes and you drafted them, maybe picked them up at randomly, and you remember them not being worth it because they didn't worth. But now Scarab Cards wasn't standard, now not that good anymore, nobody plays it, they go down, and then other cards take the spot because of different reasons. Commander, I think this is played in like some Pioneer combo deck for whatever.
I mean, it doesn't work the exact same way, because sellers can't just reseal the boxes, right? They can't just sleeve up the Scarab Gods, put them back into the boosters, zip them out.
As soon as they go out of print, the rules change. But it actually changes like why people want to have cards, and then the availability goes different.
I mean, this is obviously a commander card.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a very fun card. I mean, if you only have to sacrifice a creature, you get to Demonic Tutor.
Yeah.
That's very powerful if you ignore like the 8 mana like cost on it.
Who cares about that? We'll get to 8 mana eventually.
Yeah, so very neat thing to get in here. Number 2, Razaketh. Number 1. Number 1s are always special. Whims of Thoralf.
Tomo,
you have any idea what this does?
You have to be kidding me. All right, I'm gonna take a wild guess. I've not read the card. I have read the words buyback too. I'm gonna assume, because there is a history of these cards, that it's like I've also seen the mana cost. Can I disclose that? I assume it's a 1 mana, change the color or like the rules text to change a color to something else, like replace all the rules text words. And now for the big reveal, it is one of those. Oh, but it says something with color or basic land type. All right, tell me all about it, Toffel.
So this is another thing that happens quite frequently in Magic. The more cards get added, the more different interactions or funky interactions happen, right?
Yeah.
So I can tell you actually what this card does doesn't matter. The only two things that are reasonably important are buyback 2, and that the card targets something.
So like heroic?
Something, yeah, exactly. So people find out if you play this with Orvar.
Katan?
Yes, exactly. So if you play with Orvar, says whenever you target something, you make a copy of it. Can you imagine why Orvar is very important in that sense?
I mean, paying 3 mana for a copy of like, I don't know, Primeval Titan or something, or like any big creature sounds pretty good.
Yeah, well, first of all, obviously, it kind of has some common potential, which we come to later, but Orva is a legendary, Orva can be a commander,
Okay.
so that means you can always count on having that card, right?
Okay, so this is just an auto-include in all the Orvar decks out there.
Exactly.
If you have an Orvar deck at home, why isn't this card in your deck? Tell me.
It is probably. I mean, people are not that
People
build
caught
this.
on,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you play a commander, you copy something for every 3 mana, you copy one of your permanents,
Yeah.
and then if you have, for example, something that when it comes to play untaps your lands, like Peridot Greg or Palinchon or whatever those.
Of course.
You can make combos, the
yeah.
combos commander. So the timeline goes, card is not worth anything, card gets printed, that commander makes the card playable.
Card is worth a lot.
Card is old and not that many printed, card is worth infinite. Yeah, so what do you guess now? What is this word?
Truffle, I was wrong with like every guess so far, so I'm gonna go with 20 euros.
Okay, not that much. It's commander, like maybe actually, you know what? There will be a point in time, my guess, where it will be 20. Now it's about 60, so it's actually not that far away.
60, of course. Just
16 euros.
casually paying 16 euros for my unplayable card. Like,
Yeah,
mana.
but actually this is the point, like labeled as unplayable. I mean, you look at it and it's like, oh, why would I ever do this,
Yeah.
right? But Magic, like people that play Magic are clever, the internet is clever,
Yeah.
you know, like people find those interactions, and as soon as those interactions, I would bet if you put like a graph on it, it goes like, zhup, you know? Those cards gets expensive quickly and then surprisingly. So if you have those lying around somewhere, just have every 2-3 years, you know, have a reasonable look at those because something got printed that makes those commons, uncommons, rares be worth something. And
16 euros, that's ridiculous, Toffel.
one of my go-to answer when people ask like, when should I buy my Magic cards, you know? And the easiest answer is basically there are 2 answers. Now or never.
You mean when you sell your Magic cards?
Yeah, if you sell your Magic card, if you don't need to sell your Magic cards, don't sell them. Magic is very, very successful. There are new players every day.
Yeah.
Like there are more new players coming in than cards coming in.
Yeah.
Commander decks are 100 cards you have to get. If you're like an average commander player, you have like 16 decks.
Yeah, you also continue building decks.
Also, that's the reason why Soulrend is still expensive besides having a printing every 3 months. Yeah.
That being said, if you enjoyed this episode of, 5 cards that you didn't know were expensive, please make sure to like the video, comment maybe other examples if you can think of any.
If you find a card that you found unreasonably, surprisingly expensive, write in the comments and we can pick that up and share it with the world.
Toffel will surprise me with it next time. See you!